So her next section is entitled "Gimme That Old Time Philosophy." Right. And she says perhaps the most egregious example of freeloading is a movement to hijack the explicitly religious dimensions of Christianity. For example, there's a new field that uses philosophy to treat psychological problems. Right. It's labeled philosophical counseling. Right. And so the atheists who want the psychological comfort of Christianity while rejecting the content of Christianity can then, depend on philosophical counseling. And so she says a book on the subject titled Plato, Not Prozac became an international hit. And she says you can even get certified to be a philosophical counselor. All right. So philosophical counseling may be a new field, she says, but the concept itself is not novel. Philosophers have never been merely academic. Folks, right? It's never been merely an academic enterprise. They believe with a God replacement. They begin, with a God replacement and develop an entire worldview, exhorting people how to make sense of life and to prepare for death.
And right? we saw this especially in Mitch Stokes' book, How to Be an Atheist. We see people like Neil deGrasse Tyson or Richard Dawkins or people like Carl Sagan who want to point you to the beauty of this pale blue dot and you make really pretty YouTube videos for it, and ultimately it's like, well, I'm just a speck of dust. I really don't mean anything. Everything that I put towards effort towards creating this video talking about how beautiful the pale blue dot is ultimately meaningless. Well, I guess I'm happy now. That's where I find my happhisness, right?
Yeah,
and so
meaninglessness.
Yeah, and so we've seen this rise. We've seen a rise of going away from kind of these philosophical thinkers to more men of science and saying, oh, you explain, where to find Halley's Comet really well, or the traverse of the stars and explanations for it. Tell me how I should live my life. And so we're seeing that right now in this day and age.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. And so she gives some examples of this kind of idea and this kind of thinking, right? She talks about Pierre Hadot, I think is how you pronounce his word. In his book, Philosophy as a Way of Life, Hadot says, accepting a philosophy is like a religious conversion. It involves a total transformation of one's vision, lifestyle, and behavior. It turns our entire life upside down, right? You literally stake your life and your eternity on a set of ideas being true. She mentions that in the ancient world, when philosophy was still young, its life-transforming power was widely recognized. Hadot says he exhorted his charges, ancient philosophers, exhorted their charges to conversion, and then he directs his new converts to the path of wisdom. So Hadot is seeking to recover that spiritual role that the ancient philosophers had, right? She mentions other adherences to these particular issues as well. But her bottom line is this. She says the common thread running through these examples is that they are all attempts to fill the God-shaped hole with something other than God. Right? One book, she says, makes the claim frankly, and it's titled The Little Book of Atheist Spirituality. So atheists are even finding their own churches, right? They're even creating their own churches, founding their own churches.
Yeah. And they're splitting from each other on philosophical basis.
Yeah. Britain now has its first atheistic church. She tells us, according to news reports, dozens of gatherings dubbed atheist megachurches are springing up around the United States. So atheists, notice, are freeloading the ceremonies of religious worship, right? Yeah. They want to co-opt the rituals of Christianity while rejecting its reality. Yeah. Right. So.